Good morning, Britain. Live from Westminster Abbey on the 6th of May 2023. A momentous day, the day Charles III and his wife Camilla walked through this sheltered entrance, the famous Great West Door, and emerged 2 hours later, crowned King and Queen.
Over the last 1,000 years, there have been 39 coronations here. In 1953, the late Queen Elizabeth was just 27 years old when she entered the Abbey to be crowned. In the next few hours, King Charles, at 74, will become the oldest monarch to assume the throne.
This morning, we're hearing the thoughts of close friend and biographer Jonathan Dimbleby, whose father Richard commentated on the Queen's coronation 70 years ago.
Princess Diana's biographer Andrew Morton will be telling us why Prince Harry will feel he's representing his mother today.
And iconic 3 Degrees star and His Majesty's favourite singer, Sheila Ferguson, tells us about their 4 decades of friendship and reveals how performing at his 30th ruined her love life.
Kate joins us from Buckingham Palace. Ranvir will be at the doors of the Abbey as guests arrive. And Charlotte is at Waterloo Station, where the first of 5,000 military personnel carrying out ceremonial duties are due to arrive in the next few minutes.
We're live with members of the public who have camped for days to see this historic event, and the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment, who will escort the royal couple to Westminster Abbey and then, after the coronation, back to Buckingham Palace.
On Coronation Day, live from Westminster Abbey, this is Good Morning Britain with Shephard and Susanna Reid.
Good morning, Britain. It's just gone 6 o'clock. Welcome to our very special programme. In 6 hours at midday, the nation will see the historic crowning of a new king. More than 2,000 guests will file into Westminster Abbey to witness an ancient ceremony that will be seen around the world, but is unique to Britain.
That sound behind us, they are sweeping the streets,
they are
making sure that everything is absolutely perfect for today's events. As a young Prince Charles, he was only 4 years old when he watched his mother crowned Queen, and now he's following that tradition, but with huge differences in today's coronation.
A more diverse guest list to reflect how society has changed, and for the first time, female bishops will play a leading role.
And even though it's an Anglican ceremony, for the first time, other faiths, including Judaism, Islam, Hinduism and Sikhism, are also playing an active part.
Rishi Sunak, the country's first Hindu Prime Minister, will give the first Bible reading, and he said the coronation represents a proud expression of British history.
As the longest-serving Prince of Wales, Charles has travelled the world many times, and now, after 7 decades, he has made the journey from a prince to a king.
Despite the forecast of rain, crowds are gathering along the route the King and Queen will take on their way to be crowned. A huge security operation is gearing up here at the Abbey, where 100 heads of state will be gathering for the coronation, as we said, in about 6 hours' time.
They'll be among more than 2,000 guests at the 2-hour service. Let's take a look at what the day has in store. As dawn breaks today, a page of our country's history is turning. And to make sure we remember the start of this new chapter, the stage is set with military precision. The audience can't wait for the show to begin. It's a moment for which the calm, composed king, last night greeting dignitaries at Buckingham Palace, has prepared all his life. The First Lady of Ukraine told me just how much being here means to her.
This is another huge sign of support from the United Kingdom during such a hard time for us. I hope very much that I will have a chance to thank His Majesty in person.
An occasion that brings together politicians and princesses starts with a journey. Just under 1.5 miles from the palace to the altar of Westminster Abbey, where a throne 7 centuries old awaits. At 10:20 precisely, the horse-drawn Diamond Jubilee state coach, escorted by a 200-strong procession, will leave Buckingham Palace and travel for less than half an hour to reach its final destination at 10:53, in time for the 11 o'clock ceremony.
He's a perfectionist. He has rehearsed it very carefully, as we've seen. He knows the history of the coronation very well indeed. He takes it immensely seriously as a very sacred occasion for someone who is an Anglican and a very committed Anglican.
Just as for his mother, when St Edward's crown is placed on the King's head just after midday, gun salutes will be fired across the UK and even on ships at sea. But today's ceremony will also look different to 1953.
Has been put to it, so it reflects our diverse society. So the first person that will speak to the King is a child, a chorister out of the Chapels Royal. And of course, for the first time, there will be women there who are bishops. And of course, there's a lovely element that whilst it's a Christian service, with integrity, there is a place for those of other faiths.
But there are reports that one newer idea, calling on all of us to make homage to the new king, has now been toned down to an invitation. After the service, a golden coach awaits to take the new king and queen back to the palace, the same used by the late queen and in every coronation since 1762. A full rehearsal earlier this week gave us a glimpse of the sheer scale of the procession, with 4,000 military personnel taking part. Members of the armed forces will be among those getting this coronation medal, given to 400,000 frontline workers. Then this is the moment the world awaits, that all-important family gathering on the balcony. It's thought this time only working royals will make the cut. That counts out Prince Andrew and Prince Harry, who is thought to have arrived last night, but could already be heading back to the US after the service. The two former pilots would miss out on the best seat in the house for the coronation flypast, which will see armed forces helicopters, World War II bombers and RAF fighter jets soar over Buckingham Palace, ending in a display by the Red Arrows. That's as long as the storm clouds don't get in the way. But whether or not it pours, today is the start of a new reign. Well, in the last few minutes, the viewing areas along the route have opened up to the public. So let's cross over to Buckingham Palace. Kate is there. Almost 4,000 invited guests, including armed forces veterans, NHS staff. Kate, expected to fill those stands erected outside the palace. What an extraordinary opportunity.
I know, and actually you at home have the best seat in the house to watch events at Buckingham Palace. I've been told that officially by the security officer who came up here and said, this is the best view, so ITV is the place to be throughout the day. I mean, this is it, folks, isn't it? No one under the age of 75 has all but the haziest of memories of the last time our nation crowned a monarch. And for many people, Buckingham Palace and the weight of that moment of history is where it's really being felt. The King was born here, he was christened here, and it's from here he will leave to progress in that Diamond Jubilee coach. That's the comfortable one with the heat and the air conditioning, to the Westminster Abbey, and will return in the gold coach. That's the uncomfortable one, made of gold and lots of elements from throughout our history, including wood from number 10, would you believe, to represent everything that this moment means for all of us. And the King was here last night till rather late, not as late as he would have wanted, I understand, because Camilla said, no, you need some sleep. He was greeting lots of dignitaries and also crowds on the Mall as well. He really gets it, doesn't he? He knows what this means for so many people and the thousands that have camped out here to see him. But right now he's a few hundred yards that way, if Donovan can swing the camera around, in Clarence House, getting some rest, and he'll be here quite early this morning. He's not alone though. Camilla is with him, and also the UK's chief rabbi. This is very unusual. This is part of some of the things that are different about this ceremony, because of course it's the Jewish Sabbath today. He has to walk to Westminster Abbey, and by invitation of the King was allowed to stay with him. Isn't that wonderful? And be part of the ceremony. Now, there's lots going on. The royal family are clustered around me already this morning. The Princess Royal was out last night with Prince Andrew and Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie for a family meal at the club where Meghan and Harry met. And she is at St James's Palace, just a little way up there too. And she's got a very important role this morning. She is the gold stick, which sounds like something I've made up, but it's a role that she has chosen because it is the official personal protection of the king. And also, she confessed, it means she doesn't have to choose an outfit, which I like. So she won't be stressed about that this morning, and she'll ride on horseback behind the king all the way as he comes back to that famous balcony, which hopefully you can see in the early light of the morning, which is the moment that all cameras will be trained upon today. Of course, first used in the 1850s by Queen Victoria at the opening of the exhibition, used in 1937 for the coronation of the King's grandfather, George VI. And Diana, do you remember, we saw that infamous breaking of protocol when they kissed on the balcony too. So all eyes will be on that. So much activity this morning. I'm not kidding you, the flower beds have been inspected by dogs and dozens of officers. I think even Alan Titchmarsh hasn't combed a bed quite that much because no one is taking any chances with security, and we'll be talking about security here a little bit later on.
Kate, thank you so much. Kate at Buckingham Palace throughout the programme this morning.
It seems very serene and calm, doesn't it, at Buckingham Palace? A very different picture at Waterloo Station this morning.
Well, they're serene and calm, but looks like an element of excitement as well. The first of 5,000 military personnel starting to arrive at Waterloo. This is the biggest movement of military personnel on Britain's railways since Sir Winston Churchill's
Slightly
funeral.
different rush hour, isn't it, for this time of the morning at Waterloo Station. Charlotte is there for us this morning. Morning, Charlotte. So the first train carrying troops has arrived. There's 8 more expected. Is it over the next hour?
Yes, over the next hour and a half. Good morning to you. It's quite a sight, I have to say. It's taking everyone by surprise who's just moving about their business, making their way into London today to see all these troops arriving. The first train has just arrived. That's the army coming from Aldershot. They are transforming this station. 5,000 troops making their way through here. They're then going to be getting into formation and going over Westminster Bridge. And, you know, they're playing such a key role in today's event. 7,000 troops in total, whether it's lining the procession, taking part in the procession, being involved in that gun salute the moment the crown is placed on the King's head. And, of course, 60 aircraft, we hope, flying in the grand finale, the fly past at 2:30, weather permitting. This has all taken months in the planning. It has been quite a logistical challenge to get it all underway, and they say it was a month of planning for every hour on parade that they will do. So quite a feat, quite an undertaking, as you can imagine, getting them all to march in time, to play in time to the music. You know, a huge pressure for those involved here, but also a career highlight. Such an honour for their Commander-in-Chief to be able to do this for him. And what a glorious sight for everyone to see Britain at their ceremonial best. So we're just waiting here to see as the next trains arrive. There's going to be 9 in total, and it's quite something to kick the day off this morning.
Charlotte, thank you so much. Don't often see them out of formation.
No, you're absolutely right.
Just know that when they get started, it's going to look so regimented.
So precise.
Yes, exactly.
It's because they've got to get through the barriers and they're thinking, have I got my Oyster card? Am I going to be able to get through? I'm going to get stuck. Who knows? Charlotte, thank you very much. We'll be back to Waterloo Station as more of those troops arrive. There's more than 2,000 guests, of course, invited to witness the coronation from inside Westminster Abbey, and they are starting to arrive at security points before taking their seats. Ranvir is at Victoria Tower Gardens for us this morning. Morning, Ranvir. So the atmosphere over this end is building nicely. I can't imagine what it's like down there because, of course, the congregation includes heads of state and those representing charitable organisations.
Well, I can feel my heart getting a bit quicker, you know, as the minutes tick on. I mean, it's quite quiet here at the moment, but you can see, obviously, there's a very convoluted security process because these are the people who are going to be inside the nave of Westminster Abbey, underneath that Gothic vaulted ceiling, having a front row seat, the closest you can possibly get as a member of the public. Now, of course, they're going to come through these tents, and this is Victoria Tower Gardens, which is where I am. Now, if you don't know London very well, it might sort of prick your memory if I show you these pictures. pictures, which is of September last year. Now, this garden here was absolutely packed with thousands and thousands of mourners who gathered here for the lying in state of Her Majesty the Queen. Remember then, and Susanna, I know you were amongst them then, people had to queue for 20 hours or more, but thankfully nothing like that today. The security is very smooth, but the whole point of those people being invited are those who have done charitable work, who have camped out in their gardens for local people to raise money, who have, through sickness and illness themselves, thought about others before themselves. Indeed, the first words that the King will say as he enters the Abbey today will be, "I come here not to be served, but to serve." And the thousands of people who have been invited personally are those who don't normally have the pageantry, the fame, the inherited wealth, but they still sacrifice their time. They still put duty first. And it's those ordinary people, that theme of sacrifice is what is the entire crowning is about. When he goes to the centre of the Abbey, which is obviously in the shape of a cross, that is what it is about. It is obviously a Christian ceremony, and it is about sacrifice. But the King clearly, and the Queen, who have nominated these people to arrive today, to have that fantastic invitation to be here, to sit in the nave, to have a front row seat, to be among those only 2,000 people. The last time there were 8,000 people invited, this time just 2,000. And if you're one of those people, it means that you have done something very special and the King wants the spotlight on you. So that's what we're here to do this morning. The Great North Door opens in about an hour's time at 7:30, and we will be there to speak to some very special invited guests.
Ranvir, thank you very much indeed. The troops then coming down the ramps at Waterloo Station.
As you said, as soon as they're in formation, as soon as they're together, absolutely perfect.
Despite forecasts of rain, crowds are making their way to the official viewing areas along the procession route, and our correspondent Nick Dixon is with them. So Nick, what does it feel like where you are?
Well, morning Susanna. I was going to say everyone's still a wee bit sleepy here, but we are well past that stage. As you can tell, we've been here since about 4 o'clock this morning at Whitehall. They are absolutely dizzy with excitement here. You can see both sides of Whitehall is absolutely rammed. A lot of people have been staying in hotels locally. They've been coming down in the last few hours. They have been sleeping on the streets, and some people just arriving. This lot, as you can tell, quite subdued this morning. They've been here, what, since about 1:30?
1:30 this morning we got here, Nick.
So how do you feel then?
Tired. Tired. I had no sleep last night, so... But excited.
Coronation ready.
Really excited, though.
I said to them earlier, you're all quite bubbly, and of course immediately the bubbles came out. How do you feel about really being here to see a part of history?
Super, super, super excited. We come for everything all the time, and just... We've been waiting forever for this!
They're all friends, but this lady here is from Philadelphia. I feel like you're all friends and have been for years, but you've known them for a few hours.
Yeah, exactly. We just met today. Yeah. They've taken me under their wing.
Yeah. For the rest of the day.
And it's going to be a long day for you guys.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good stuff. Well, look, have a fantastic time. As you can see, Susanna, Ben, the atmosphere down here is just absolutely wonderful, and it's only going to get busier.
Love you, Ben!
Love you too. I just excited as soon as they said the atmosphere was bubbling, the bubbles come up.
The bubbles come out.
How long do you think that bottle's going to last before it's opened and finished?
I think it'll probably be opened by 6:30.
Now, the all-important weather, the Coronation Day weather is hugely important. They've made some preparations over there. You can see they've already sheltered the West Gate with that awning because we've had a lot of rain here. There's a few downpours that have caused a few problems.
You can sort of feel, although it's dry, it does feel damp in the air, doesn't it? And, of course, the weather will affect whether there's a possibility of a fly past as well.
And there you go, you see them, just those final preparations happening right now. So let's find out from Des Coleman, who's in Windsor for us on the Great Walk this morning. So come on then, Des, how's it looking?
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I am on the long walk. It's a 2.5-mile stretch. Tree-lined avenue. It stretches right across Windsor. You can actually see the castle behind me. A couple of minutes ago, it was actually shrouded under a fair amount of cloud. It's that cloud that is across much of the country where there are around 3,000 street parties taking place, all desperate to know what's happening when it comes to our weather. But like you say, there is some rain in our forecast. From the south, we are seeing a bank of rain move through regardless of whether you're in Wales or the Midlands, North Midlands, even to Lincolnshire. you're going to see those heavy showers push through during the course of the afternoon. Towards Scotland, though, you can actually split into two halves, towards the west and towards the east. Towards the west, a number of heavy showers. Towards the east, though, cloudier, slightly dry, but feeling a little bit cooler. Towards Northern Ireland, I think those showers will be there, but some brighter skies coming through. And when it comes to the temperatures, even though it's cooler than what we saw yesterday, temperatures are just about where they should be for the time of year, around 15 to 17 degrees. The winds are relatively light, but if you are having a party, I'm sure you're not going to let the weather spoil your day. Enjoy the coronation celebrations.
Thank you, Des. The great Des Coleman on the Long Walk.
That's it.
In Windsor. And we'll look forward to seeing what happens a little bit later on. It is, as you say, staying relatively mild here, but it's
very mild.
Much milder than we thought it was going to be. Of course, at 7:30 this morning, the doors of the Abbey will open to welcome the congregation. More than 2,000 people from 203 countries are expected to attend.
One of those guests, an award-winning hairstylist whose name is Charlotte Mensah. Now, Charlotte met the King through his charity, the Prince's Trust, and you received a grant to help you set up your own salon, and you have, as a result, received an invitation to Westminster Abbey for the coronation. Absolutely remarkable. And of course, Hugo Vickers, who has been following the royal family for half a century, is the author of the book Coronation, and you have your own coronation memories, don't you, Hugo? So welcome to you both. Charlotte, let's start with you. What an invitation to have.
I could not believe it. I was like, is this real? When I got the letter, I was like, no way, this can't be real.
So just tell us about when that arrived. You open it up. Did you have an inkling? When did it happen?
It happened about 3 weeks ago, and I was like, no way. When I saw it, I was like, is this real?